Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Happy Wednesday, and welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you. We are certainly into the dog days of summer. MLB All-Star Game yesterday, and this is traditionally one of the slowest days on the sports calendar. But always fun in this line of work to take advantage of lighter days as far as games go, to kick around some fun all-time topics. And we're going to get into a little bit of discussion on the all-time Jets 2.0 team coming up in a few minutes. But we do, obviously we had the All-Star Game last night. NL finally getting a win for the first time in, 10 years? And obviously a big week for the Blue Jays with Vlad Guerrero Jr. winning the home run derby. But I got to tell you, the big story in and around Winnipeg was the Sea Bears, coast to coast on TSN last night, lost a heartbreaker to the Rattlers from Saskatchewan. But I'll tell you what, the big story to me is just how successful this team has been. And I don't want to say I told you so, but I kind of did. There was a lot of people that wondered how this would go over. This market was ready for a professional basketball team. And the crowds are a lot different than you'll see at the hockey games. But I'll tell you what, it has been a smashing success despite the loss last night, which could have clinched a spot in the tournament, in the championship tournament at the end of the season for the Sea Bears. They'll have another chance to do that Friday and Sunday as they continue their homestand out at Canada Life Centre. We'll get to all of that in a minute. Coming up today, we're actually going to head out to Ottawa. Talk a little, the Sens are an interesting team, and there's many comparisons you can make to Winnipeg, being in the smallest Canadian markets, and, particular challenges that, the Ottawa Senators face when it comes to recruiting players, as well as the Winnipeg Jets. And, of course, they just made a big trade with Alex DeBrincat. They've got a new owner. We'll kind of compare Jets and Sens and find out a little bit more about what's happening in Ottawa with one of our favorite guys to talk to, Ian Mendes of The Athletic. A little more on the Jets and the Bombers, and maybe even the Sea Bears too, with our pal Scott Billeck a little later on. And then in the second hour of the program, we will welcome in the Bomber bulldozer himself, Brady Oliveira, as the Bombers get ready for the Ottawa Redblacks coming up on Saturday afternoon. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, a big shout out to the sponsors that make this show happen every day. Our friends at Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Aquatech, Modern Man, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, F Apparel, Wallace & Wallace, Vita Health Fresh Market, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Consolidated Supply, the Winnipeg Goldeyes, who kicked off their 6-game stretch against Cleburne with a win last night, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend, Aikens Lake, and, of course, our friends at Little Brown Jug. Let's get down to business. Welcome to everyone together in the chat room right now, and, of course, everyone listening on podcast, and welcome you, Michael Remis. What is up?
I'm just in awe of these attendance numbers for the Sea Bears. Yesterday on national television, 5,430 fans
Sold
at
out.
Canada Life Centre. Second largest crowd of the arena. The opener, they really opened it up. But their average this season has 4,986 fans. Absolutely incredible. I think that's their average smashes the record. Record of league attendance, coming into the year. But fans have come out for the Sea Bears. You saw it on TSN yesterday. They're engaged. They're standing. They're cheering. There's a lot of entertainment, outside of the play as well. Loving the Sea Bears, and they tried to clinch a playoff spot yesterday. Were not able to, and every game ends with a game-winning shot, and it was Justin Wright Foreman hitting from 3 for the Rattlers.
That was such a dagger. And I know people that have been, listening to the show know I've been quite under the weather this week. So I've essentially been doing the show and being in bed and sleeping like 15 hours a day. So I didn't make it to the arena last night, but I was so fired up that the game was on television. And the Sea Bears went into the fourth quarter tied at 76 and gave up the first 10 points. And there was a timeout with, I want to say, about 6.5 minutes left, so 2.5 minutes until the target score. By the way, how cool is it to have the Chuck Swirsky doing the game as well? And I'm not sure who it was that was doing the color for him, but did a very good job of saying that this is sort of like a 2-minute and 30-second game to get to the target score for the Sea Bears. And they ended up rattling off 8 in a row. So they were down only 2, I believe, when it went to when it got past 4 minutes. They turned the clock off. It was first team to 97. And man, they had a couple threes that would have won the game that clanked. They played some great defense and got a couple more opportunities. And I really think they at the end of the game, it was tied at 96. So the next basket won. And as you mentioned, the guy from Saskatchewan launched a bit of a prayer, I thought, but it went and it went down. But I mean, just an amazing atmosphere. It looked so good for our city, for the organization to have that sort of crowd. And as I said, right from game 1 of this season, the Sea Bears have raised the bar for the CEBL. I think they are the model franchise right now. And it's great. And I know after that first game, I made a statement on this program that I think the Sea Bear, of course, the prior record for attendance in the CEBL for any game before this season was 4,400. And after the way this city embraced the home opener, I said on this program that I think they will finish with an average attendance above the prior record. And I think that's looking pretty good right now with another 5,400. I think they'll get a great crowd on Friday, Sunday afternoon, and then 2 weeks until the final game. But overall, I know people probably have been living and dying with everything going on and around the league. This is growing. This is getting more and more people involved. It has been a huge hit in the city of Winnipeg. And then when you see the broadcast on TSN, the fact of the matter is, the one thing I don't think we were sure of was how good the team would be. And despite last night's loss, they've been very, very entertaining, getting wins right now. And I think it's a pretty good chance that we'll be talking about Sea Bears going for a championship in a few weeks out in BC.
Yeah, I really like how they've structured this in the summer, so you can bring in players from a number of other teams who play during the, I guess, traditional winter basketball months. So that's good. Short schedule, go at 20 games, 10 home games, 10 road, every game on TSN Plus with weekly highlighted national game. This is working out great here in Winnipeg. I can't speak so much for other cities, but the team has definitely been embraced, and love seeing that great crowd. Great crowd yesterday. And you have to think with Winnipeg showing up so much for the Sea Bears, there's probably going to be more of these national games going forward, at least into next year. So I'm curious to see how they roll into year 2. But we got to finish year 1. They're trying to get a playoff spot, and maybe even could they take down a league title in year 1? Well, they got to get to the playoffs first, but they're on their way.
Well, and Teddy Buckets was on Fuego last night. I think he finished with 36 and almost with 39 on a basket that would have won the game. And it's interesting. I see some comments in that Winnipeggers will slap Winnipeg on a jersey and they'll support anything, with the exception of soccer. Don't sleep on Valor FC. Valor actually has had some good crowds this year. They had over 4,000 recently at a game, and I know, and we all know Taylor, who's been a longtime regular in our chat. She's one of the rowdies in the trench. They have moved the trench now to right behind the net, basically where you would see the crazies at the Bomber games. And they're having the smoke bombs and stuff now. I mean, they're working more and more towards creating that soccer atmosphere that I think you really have to go out and give it a chance and be a part of it to see it. But I've got optimism for soccer across Canada. And obviously, we're going to be talking some soccer in a couple of weeks when our Canadian women head down under to participate in the World Cup. One other comment from chat, and our buddy All Caps Kyle dropped this one in. He said, I've been MAA since Thursday's show. What are all your feelings about this cashless crap at MTS Center? Well, Kyle, it is Canada Life Center. But I saw that yesterday, Remo, and apparently Canada Life Centre now is a cashless building. No more. All this, useless now.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to good old-fashioned Canadian currency?
Cash is
I hate this trend. Can I just say this? I absolutely hate this trend.
Cash is dead, Huss. And just another long list of things that have been killed in 2023. If you have cash, you can go to and you need to spend it, you can go to their guest services, and they'll sell you a Visa gift card. I mean, that's what it is. I'll say this. The one, I was on, was it this show or another where the Bombers, IG Field, has been cashless for a number of years. And I said, it's better, it's quicker. So it was so slow at the beginning.
You said it's quicker?
Well,
you think it's quicker?
If it's done correctly, yeah. But I remember when the Bombers started out cashless, Huss, their POS systems were not set up to their debit machines. So you had to punch in the number. If you just have it hooked up to one machine, yeah, you just tap your thing and you're done in 2 seconds. They put the amount on the machine. That's what I think.
Every single, listen, I'm going to say this, and Wade's done everything right. So, I mean, listen, if you end up going 17-1, it's still a pretty good season. But I still maintain this is a huge fail. I mean, over the course of the last 2 years at Bomber games, first of all, there's been horrible weather at times where the machines didn't work. I mean, there's a ton of people trying to buy drinks and buy stuff, and there was no option. So, I have no idea. I had some conversation with friends as to how much sales just were lost in that one incident that would make it worthwhile. I mean, I guess it's cleaner. You don't have to count the money at the end. But I mean, as far as it being faster, there is zero chance it's faster. I mean, I bought a couple beers at the game last week. You're there, you get your card, you have to put in, you get a tip prompt on every single transaction, which is fine. And I guess that does, because it does suck for the, it's so easy, if something's, $9, you give them $10, thanks a lot, boom, you're done. And $1 goes there. But there's people that feel like they're being forced into tipping on everything. Might rub some people the wrong way. There must be some major benefits to the organizations behind the scenes with efficiency and I guess not having to cash out at the end, because there's zero chance that it is quicker. It's certainly not better for the consumer. And I honestly think it costs them sales at the end of the day. So, but I guess that's the world we're living in right now. There's my old man rant for today.
Yeah, I saw the notice, Canada Life Centre putting it on Twitter yesterday. Didn't really affect me. I didn't care. I don't carry around cash ever. And they tweeted out, Canada Life Centre is now cashless. Please note that to reduce touch point and expedite payment, all food and beverage transactions are cashless. Guests are encouraged to use contactless payment for event merchandise. And contactless is when you just tap your card or I have it on my phone, Apple Pay. So
that's complete bullshit. Every single time you have to touch it 3 times for what you're tipping and putting that in. Give me a break. That's just not true. That's
your opinion. I don't know. Then Kevin Donnelly did an interview.
Has anyone ever put their tip in touchless? Explain to me how you can do that touchless.
I don't know how.
Thank you.
Well, Kevin Donnelly was on, he did an interview with a media outlet, it might have been Global or CJOB or something, and he said that basically every arena in North America is cashless, and the MTS Center, Canada Life Center has just been behind the trend, and now they're catching up to it. So it's cash is dead, Huss. Radio's dead.
I don't
cash
understand.
Is dead. Linear TV's
I asked
dead.
Kevin, when the Bombers went and did that, I asked Kevin on a bunch of occasions. I said, wait a second, you're not going to do that as well. He said, well, no, you'll have the option to do both. And to me, the option to do both is certainly in the best interest of the customer. I mean, as they say, for the customer, it's worse. I don't think there's any argument you can make that, forcing people to do it one way is better for them. There must be some major benefits behind the scenes through efficiencies of the things that we don't see. Because, as I say, you will never convince me that anything is faster by utilizing, cards, especially where you're prompted and you have to decide what tip you want and put all that in. I mean, that's ridiculous. And that's the case at the Bomber games right now. So, as I say, at the end of the day, the money will always win out. And if it's something that will help them maybe not pay people as long because, they don't have to have that extra half hour on their shift when they have to wait around and cash out, that's the only thing I can think of. Because, as I say, certainly from a process of customers, as I say, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. There's our why not question of the day for Not AutoCorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Am I being ridiculous? Is this do people care? I guess at this point. And as I say, I'm certainly open for a debate. If anyone can tell me how in the world that can actually expedite anything, I'm all ears. But as I say, from real life experience, more often than not, the first year they put this in, I thought that the Bombers would have probably lost six figures in concession sales and beer sales because of issues with the machines at times and just the fact that it was taking forever and a lot of people didn't want to wait in the line. They certainly do have a lot. I will give them credit for one thing though. And if you've ever been around the North End, around the Rum Hut area, they certainly have enough places to grab a beer if you need. So that is one thing that hasn't been. Let's see. You know what the other thing? I mean, is this the end of hawkers?
I don't know how it works, Sess.
Like, think about hawkers. You'd go in, you give your 20. I mean, everyone's been to a game where they're running around. Like, does that even... Anyways, shout out to the Gold Eyes. You can still use cash, and they still have hawkers there. But now that I think about it, that might be it. I mean, there's no way you're going to be able to, if you're in the middle of a row, throw the debit machine all the way down the aisle and get the guy to do it and then hand it back down.
It's better than handing around money, man. I remember I went to, I'll never forget, I went to a Twins game at the Metrodome. My only memory of the game is sitting there passing cash back and forth the entire game. I don't remember anything of the game, maybe some of the players. But God, and what a dog shit stadium the Metrodome was. Holy crap, was it terrible? So that's what I remember from the game. I was never a big hawker guy. As maybe you see a guy selling a beer and you get one from him, they're standing on the sidelines, but I was never like, hey, come here, give me a bunch of stuff. That was not my move.
I will say this. The Gold Eyes have some of the best hawkers or beer guys. And I think beer guys are more important at baseball games than certainly. I don't even know if they have them anymore at the hockey games or even the football games. And there's so many spots, as I mentioned, at Canadians or at IG Field to be able to pick up your spot. You can get it. But the Gold Eyes have a great and I actually try and support those guys because they're working hard. They're slinging, 30 beers around from section to section. And it is always something good. Speaking of which, on the Gold Eye game, incredible response on our game coming up. If you've missed it, if you missed a few shows, 2 weeks today, Wednesday, July 26th, is going to be Winnipeg Sports Talk night at the Gold Eyes. If you go over to winnipegsportstalk.com, there's a link right there. You can get your tickets. $15 and you'll get a free Winnipeg Sports Talk koozie while supplies last because we're already well over 50 tickets. But come one, come all. It'll be a great chance in a real fun atmosphere for everyone to get together and maybe meet some friends that you certainly know what their handle is in the YouTube chat, but you've never seen them before. And obviously, there's nothing like a summer night at the ballpark. So join us that night. And Remo, fill them in on the special promo for merch as well, which you can get as well and then pick up at the game. Yeah,
so if you were looking to get a WST hoodie, you haven't been able to win the marble race, or you see Hustler and I wearing these beautiful Winnipeg Sports Talk hats, you wanted to get one, use promo code FISH, 25% off with your ticket order. You can get discount on hoodie. We've had some mug orders, hat orders. So shout out to everyone who's already. See Les Tomset in chat. Les will get you hook up with your ticket, and a number of regular chatters that I see every day on YouTube have bought tickets. So I'm looking forward to this night. Our first like baseball sporting event outing, baseball, hockey, whatever it is, first sporting event outing with WST. I really didn't know how the sales were going to go as a group, but really blown away by the response so far. So this is going to be a fun evening.
Hey, am I getting ratioed in the chat right here? I think I am a little bit.
I'm not sure how to word the poll. So let's take a poll. Like, what are your, maybe like, what are your thoughts on cashless transactions? Yay or like, do you care about the cashless, about CLC going cashless? Yes or no? I mean, I don't know how to word. You only get 2 responses, and it's like kind of like a yes or a no thing.
It is a tough one. Oh my God, just great. This sounds like old CGOB beefs and bouquets. This definitely is a beef. And then, I don't know. Hustler hates Threads and credit cards.
Yeah, you need to get on Threads.
Credit cards.
I posted on Threads that Brady Oliveira is coming on, and I wanted to tag you in it, but I can't do that. So you got to get on there.
Listen, are you really enjoying it? Like, do you think it's even close to as good as Twitter?
I don't know. I just check on it like once in a while to see all the great follows we're getting. Chad Posthumous followed Winnipeg Sports Talk and the Seabears on Twitter. I mean, on Threads. I was pumped.
Love to hear your. As far as I can tell, people are just doing it just in case it actually works better. But your feed isn't people that you're following, which to me and it's not chronological. It's just essentially what Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook wants to feed you. So that to me doesn't sound like a great selection. Hey, listen, we are going to go to Ottawa and talk to Ian Mendes in a few minutes. And this will be something we can kind of talk about over the next couple days. But we've been putting together the all-time Winnipeg Jets 2.0 team. And as we kind of dove into it more, and again, everyone, might have, we could probably do a few versions of this, like maybe the best characters, the best hair, I mean, all of those things. But man, when you look at, performance, amount of time guys played on teams, it certainly does come out pretty damn close to that 2017, 2018 roster, Reem.
Okay, so it's summer, and this is like Mount Rushmore season where you're listing off all-time this, all-time that, and I was listening to Sirius XM, and they were talking about all-time teams for some other places, and I was like, well, what about the Jets? And we've never really done it because I think it hasn't been long enough, but now that you go and you make an all-time Jets team, basically the 2017 18 team, which is kind of funny. We can show our lists later. But I guess I wasn't that surprised, but it's kind of, then you think, oh, what could have been with this 2017-18 team?
Well, yeah, I mean, that is for sure. You do think about that a lot more when you do an exercise like this. I mean, I put together first team all time, Jets 2011. I mean, the first line, it's pretty clear. It's Connor Scheifele Wheeler.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Dustin Byfuglien, and Josh Morrissey.
Oh, what do you want to do first? I guess I would put Morrissey as like all time, but I had Morrissey in my second line and then put Enstrom with Byfuglien because like that's who Byfuglien played with if I'm doing a team. But yeah, if you want to do it all-star format, then yeah, Morrissey would be up there.
You know what, Enstrom? I know there's a lot. Enstrom is a very polarizing guy in Jets history, and hey, he was a great. He rode shotgun with Dustin Byfuglien, and was very effective. But he doesn't stand out. I gave him second team, but when I look at it, there's an argument to be made for some other guys. The second team is Brian Little with Patrick Laine and Nikolai Ehlers. Jacob Trouba on the right side, and I gave it to Toby Enstrom. I think more because of how long that he played. But if there's one stat that shocked me about when I was going through the numbers of the all-time team from 2011 until now, Toby Enstrom played 401 games, had 137 points, played a ton, played with Dustin Byfuglien all that time. Neil Pionk has 7 more points than Enstrom in 125 less games.
Yeah.
Like, does that not surprise you?
That does that. Okay, I put together my list too. I had Enstrom on because of a lot of it is longevity. He was on he was on that Jets team that made the conference final. And as you said, he played 7 seasons here, 401 games. I think part of it, Huss, is just seeing points. I think a lot of it is eras now. You're seeing points increase so much than it was in the mid-2000s. Like, what year was it that Jamie Benn won the Art Ross with like 80 points? Was like 90 points?
Yeah, but I mean, we're not talking about 20 years ago. We're talking about, the last 10. I mean, I don't think you can really make the argument that the league is entirely different from since Neil Pionk got here to when Enstrom was here.
I don't know. He won the Art Ross with 87 points in 2015. What year did Toby Enstrom play here?
How many games?
1 sec.
That wasn't a shortened season?
No, that was
a regular 82 game season?
Yes.
Oh, was that McDavid's rookie year? Where he got hurt?
I don't recall. Let me just. It was
It must have
87
been,
points in 82 games. Tavares 86 and 82. Crosby 84. I mean, scoring was way down. It was way down then. So that's kind of what I think. And that's one thing I've learned from playing so much puck doku. When it's like, name someone with a 50 assist season. Well, it's going to be anyone who played like 92, 93 era.
Well, for sure.
Yeah.
That is interesting. As I say, listen, I mean, Enstrom, as I said, I'm giving it to Enstrom. But that, of the entire exercise, the thing that stood out to me the most was the points that Neil Pionk has put up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 7 more points than Enstrom.
Yes.
In 125 less games. Anyways, that really did sort of stand out to me.
I mean, I didn't put Neil Pionk on my team, but you're making me rethink when you look at most points, especially among defensemen. I mean, he's got more than any Jets 2.0 defenseman except for Trouba, Morrissey, and Byfuglien.
Yeah.
And then there's Pionk, so maybe I need to rethink
and I
things.
think we all agree Pionk he really struggled at times last year and the year before. I mean, listen, when he first came here, he was really, really good. And I would argue that, as the season went on, he got a lot better last year. Didn't he have 7 points in the playoffs too?
He had that game, the game 3, which Adam Lowry had the tying goal. I mean, he was incredible in that game, Neil Pionk, and he was the one who shut down McDavid.
7 assists in 5 games.
And
7 assists in 5 games.
Yeah,
so
shut down McDavid in that sweep. Remember when the Jets swept McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in the playoffs? The one that nobody saw and nobody remembers. But I guess that is the one thing I learned, that maybe we need to rethink Neil Pionk's place in Jets 2.0 history.
All right. Let's get to our pal Ian Mendes. It was great to catch him out in Nashville, and he's always been kind with his time. And kind of figured we'd talk a little bit about the DeBrincat trade, and of course, Manitoba's own Travis Hamonic staying put with the Sens on a 2-year deal. But just before we get to Ian Mendes, big shout out to some of our sponsors, including Modern Man Barbershop. Big thanks to our friends at Modern Man Barbershops for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Modern Man now has 8 locations in Winnipeg, including the newest locations on Pembina Highway and Plessis Road. Modern Man, guys, has you covered for whatever you need. Haircuts, beard shaping, shaves, color services, and more. Book your look and make an appointment via modernmanbarber.com, and give them a follow on Instagram as well at Modern Man Barbershops. Hey, we got some more heat coming up over the next few days. Great time to get into a pool. Don't have one? Why not make 2023 the year you take the plunge? Visit aqua-tech.ca to design your own custom pool. The Aquatech team can provide on-the-spot pricing from designers, as well as financing options that suit you. And whole home renos start with Aquatech as well, with thousands of renovations as their foundation. Let them upgrade any space in your home. Aquatech's ready to make your reno dreams a reality. Learn more about design, pricing, and financing options at aqua-tech.ca. And hey, with school out for the summer, this is the time of year where you spend time with your kids away from school. And you know who else deserves a big shout out right now? The parents that spend the last 10 months keeping up with busy school and sports schedules for kids. And now for a short time, the schedule slows down. And the team at Manitoba Battery wants you all to enjoy the free time. Enjoy the break and unwind however you see fit. And if your summer fun includes anything that might need a battery, let Manitoba Battery look after you with low prices and free delivery anywhere in Winnipeg. Save big money, save time. That's what it's about at Manitoba Battery. They've got summer fun deals going on right now. So when you need, go to manitobabattery.com and let Donnie and his gang help you enjoy this one time a year when you can let life slow down a bit. And hey, by the way, speaking of slowing things down in the summer, if you're looking for a great cocktail to enjoy that downtime, check out Canadian Club and Ginger Ale. Maybe you've tried it at a Bomber game. Maybe you've seen people getting it. If you haven't had it already, you can pick it up at Manitoba Liquor Marts. You could also get it at your local beer vendor, maybe when you're thinking about something a little different. It's now available in 473 milliliter cans and available in 6-packs. And of course, the great taste of Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey and the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers Canadian Club, also available at your local Manitoba Liquor Mart. All right, let's welcome in our pal Ian Mendes from The Athletic in Ottawa. Ian, what is going on? It was great to see you in Nashville, and thanks for jumping on with us today.
Andrew, great to see you guys in Nashville. Those in-person meetings and visits, they're always so good, right? So like I said to you there in Nashville, love coming on with you guys. Love the platform, everything you've built up there in Winnipeg. So yeah, happy to join you.
Well, you know, I thought it'd be a great time for us to kind of chat because, I mean, let's face it, as the two smallest markets in Canada, there are a lot of similar challenges between the Winnipeg Jets and the Ottawa Senators. Although I think at their point, I mean, the Jets have sort of coming out of a time where they were very competitive and, you know, were still doing their best to stay there. Whereas the Ottawa Senators have had, you know, some lean years, but I think the hope and the pressure is now on Ottawa to take that next step. Not to mention a new owner. Give us an idea of what things are like around Ottawa and maybe the narrative and the feeling of the fan base after missing the playoffs for a few years. Is there a lot of optimism right now, or is it more impatience?
Boy, that's a good question. I wonder if there's a word. There's probably like a German word that mixes optimism and impatience, right? Like there's some weird German word. I think for the most part, it's optimistic. And I think this week might not be the best litmus test for Ottawa fans because you got to remember, Andrew, they just moved Alex DeBrincat this week, right? And so the feeling is that stings a little bit. The return wasn't great. So from that perspective, there's, you know, a little bit of cynicism dashed in, but I think most people feel like in this market that they're headed in the right direction. That you know, like 2 years ago, it didn't feel that way. Last year, it certainly felt like they were starting to get this thing on track, and now with the new owner waiting in the wings in Michael Landlauer, you feel like stability is around the corner, that success is around the corner. So I do think for the most part there's optimism, but again, like I said, this week probably not the best week because of a little bit of bitterness around the DeBrincat situation.
Well, you mentioned the DeBrincat deal, and this is another reason why I kind of wanted to bring you on today, because I think there's some pretty interesting similarities between the situations that Winnipeg and Ottawa were in with Pierre-Luc Dubois and Alex DeBrincat. And now listen, Dubois has taken some heat around here, and we've certainly been the beneficiaries of it. That's certainly given us lots to talk about over the last little bit. But in a way, it sort of seems like Pierre-Luc Dubois and Paterson did end up doing the Winnipeg Jets a bit of a favor in the fact that it wasn't just the Montreal Canadiens that they would be willing to go to or sign an extension with. And that allowed the Winnipeg Jets to, you know, maybe get a better haul coming back from the LA Kings. What went into the DeBrincat trade, and did this really come down to willing or no willingness to sign with any other team? And obviously he had a big number for this year's contract that just put Pierre Dorion in a really difficult situation.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of teams, as you know, could just absorb a guy at just a hair under $8 million all of a sudden, right? Like, you got to do some things. There's some cap gymnastics that have to be undertaken in order to fit in an Alex DeBrincat in the month of July. So I think from that perspective, right away, the market was limited. I think Alex always felt like he wanted to test unrestricted free agency next summer. And I think in particular, Andrew, I think he wanted to go home. He's a Michigan guy. And so I think he looked at this and said, okay, I'm a year out from unrestricted free agency. Look, you could trade me. You could trade me to Winnipeg. You could trade me to Columbus. You could trade me to Buffalo. You could trade me to Philadelphia. You could trade me anywhere. But if you're looking for a big return back, well, if I'm being blunt, I think I want to go home. And that's where I probably would like to sign next year. So I think at the end of the day, the market wasn't as robust because, and I don't blame the player. Like the player did nothing wrong here. The player never asked to be traded to Ottawa. He never technically asked to be traded away from Ottawa. He just said, look, I'm probably not going to sign with you. Deal with it. And so you're right. I think when the Dubois deal went down with LA, I think a lot of Ottawa fans said, aha, that's the benchmark for the return, right? Because very similar players in terms of both pending UFAs next summer. They both kind of wanted out, and this was going to be the deal. And I mean, Dubois gets a longer extension. DeBrincat doesn't. He gets a 4-year deal. And I think that was reflected a little bit in the return that maybe Ottawa got for Alex DeBrincat.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. I mean, we've made many comparisons between those situations, talking about what was happening in Ottawa and Winnipeg here on this program. And I'll say this. I mean, I think Cheveldayoff and the job that he did, grinding out what came back from LA looks pretty good. But at the same time, it's hard to give Pierre Dorion too much heat on this, because I think that there certainly was something to be said for Ottawa taking that swing last year and trying to get him in and paying the price that it took. Listen, it didn't work out. They had to move on. They recouped the pick. It won't be as high as the one that they gave up, but it was sort of making the best out of a situation that didn't work. But I think what they did was worthwhile doing it, considering where the Senators have been and where they're trying to get to.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, right? Because when you're in a market like Ottawa or Winnipeg, it's not often that you are the destination for a splashy acquisition, right? Like, it's not that often that the young 2-time 40-goal scorer in the prime of his career is landing on your doorstep via free agency or a trade or what have you. So I think that there was some inherent value in trading for DeBrincat last year. As you mentioned, I think it kind of ignited or was the catalyst for a new era in Ottawa. A few days later, they signed Claude Giroux. It was like them putting a flag into the ground saying, we are now shooting for the playoffs. We are willing to move assets and picks for win now help. So I think from that perspective, it's hard to sit here and tell you, after the excitement in the marketplace last summer and into the season, that bringing DeBrincat in was a mistake, because there was just a ton of buzz. Where I think that there was a problem, and Pierre Dorion addressed this on Ottawa radio this week, Andrew, was prior to making the trade with Chicago, he asked Chicago general manager Kyle Davidson, can we talk to Alex DeBrincat? Kyle Davidson said, no, you cannot. And that's the general manager's prerogative. And I don't blame Kyle Davidson, because he's your player. If you allow somebody else to talk to him without your consent, that's tampering. And, so I think Davidson did the smart thing, because if Davidson allows Ottawa to speak to DeBrincat, maybe Alex DeBrincat and his camp relay the information to Ottawa. Hey, we're happy to come there for a year, maybe 2, but unrestricted free agency in the summer of 2024 is really calling, and Alex really would consider going home. So just be aware. They didn't have that conversation. They weren't allowed to have that conversation. So he rolled the dice. And again, he was hoping Alex would come in, score 35 goals, score 40 goals. Ottawa makes the playoffs. Maybe he falls in love with it, and away we go. It's just the chemistry didn't quite work on the ice. He never found that perfect partner like he had with Patrick Kane and Dylan Strome in Chicago, like somebody he could seamlessly work with. It just was awkward. It was just off. And so it didn't materialize the way anybody envisioned, but it's hard for me to sit here and say, in hindsight, boy, what a mistake, because I think it reinvigorated the fan base at a time in which, consumer confidence was at an all-time low in this market.
And I'm very interested in Pierre Dorion's spot in the market. I mean, Kevin Cheveldayoff's, I think Chevy's had a good few weeks. I think he was taking a lot of heat beforehand. And listen, people are impatient. And I think fans, fairly or unfairly, sometimes don't care about the unique challenges of being a GM in a market like Ottawa or Winnipeg. And they expect you to win and go out and do it. But with a new owner and with where the Sens have been for the last few years, how would you categorize Dorion's position right now as GM? And is it pressure for this year in particular, or does the new owner maybe give him a little bit more rope to take this slowly, if you will? Because they do have a lot of these young players signed for a good period of time.
Yeah, it's I think there's immense pressure on him. Andrew, if we're being honest, I think in some ways he's auditioning for his own job. And I think when Michael Andlauer gets the keys to the team, it'll be interesting to see, does he make wholesale changes, little changes, no changes? I think all three options might be on the table depending on the timing of all of this. I think it's really interesting to me that the timing of this, this is all stems from the timing of the sale of the team, right? Because, Andrew, if the Ottawa Senators were sold in March or April, like a lot of people thought they would, and then the thing would have closed in May or June, I think it would have been an easy, natural time for Michael Andlauer to come in, put his stamp on the team, bring his own people in before the draft and free agency, and away you go. It didn't play out that way. Instead, Michael Andlauer is likely going to get the team at some point in August, maybe September. All of the moves have already been made. So it's going to be tricky, but I think there's immense pressure on this team because now you've got a new owner and you have playoff aspirations and expectations in the marketplace. I would say the first 20 games or whenever you get to American Thanksgiving is going to be I'm not sure that there's a team in the NHL with more pressure on its shoulders in the first 20 games of the season than Ottawa. You've got a general manager and a head coach who are basically auditioning for their own jobs under a brand new owner who's going to want to have success right away. It's a recipe for a very pressure-packed environment in Ottawa, as it should be. We just watched this team miss the playoffs in 6 straight years. I don't think anybody wants to sit here and say, one more year of growth or let them get off to an okay start. No, they got to hit the ground running here. So I do think that he will be under immense pressure from the minute Michael Andlauer gets control of this team.
The other big part of the Sens' big picture is an arena. Anyone that's been out there knows how far away the rink is in Canada from the main part of Ottawa. Where are things at, and is there an expectation that there'll be a new home for Ottawa now that there's a new owner?
Yes, but I don't think, Andrew, it's going to happen anytime soon. In fact, if anything, it's interesting to me because of all the potential owners that were in the mix to buy Ottawa, and obviously some of them were pretty high profile, right, with Ryan Reynolds and Snoop and whatever. But if you go behind the scenes and look at the people that were actually in the running to buy the team, a lot of them were looking at the Senators, I think, as a real estate play, we can get a hockey team, but we can maybe look at this as a real estate opportunity to monetize some land value, build an arena in a primo spot downtown. Michael Andlauer was the one owner, Andrew, that I think looked at this more through the lens of purchasing a hockey team first and an arena real estate opportunity second. And I think that's important because I think that's going to allow some time in the marketplace. There's not going to be a rush. I don't think we're going to hear anything in the calendar year 2023 on the Senators' new home. My best guess is Michael Andlauer will get 6 months, 8 months, maybe even 12 months, get his feet wet, understand the market, acclimate himself to the city, figure out where maybe business people, real estate developers think this arena should go, find the partner that wants to do it, and away we go. But I think it'll happen, but I don't think we're going to be at a point where shovels are breaking the ground even into 2024 at any point.
Ian Mendes is with us in Ottawa. Just one more on the Sens, and this is a little bit more of a local question pertaining to us here in Manitoba. We've got a lot of listeners down in St. Malo, Manitoba, just south of the city. How's Travis Hamonic fit in there in Ottawa? He just signed that 2-year extension. It seems like he's sort of really found a home after, a couple of shaky spots. Early, he was great in Calgary, but not so much in Vancouver.
Yeah, and what's interesting, Andrew, when Ottawa traded for Travis Hamonic at the trade deadline in 2022, the next 3 months, I heard from a lot of people in a lot of places that had either worked alongside Travis Hamonic, played with Travis Hamonic, whatever. But in particular from Vancouver people who are like, yikes, look out. This guy's a bad apple. And I was like, okay, I'm interested to really kind of get to know him last season because last year the locker rooms were back open and we had a chance to sit down. So, Andrew, I made it a point to try and create a professional relationship with Travis Hamonic, who I was told doesn't like doing the media, will be short and curt with you, all these things. The first time I meet him, I introduced myself, sit down, try to chat. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. The guy seemed a lot more open than the scouting report said he would be. Yeah, and then every couple of weeks I go by and sit down, chat with him. And I'll tell you, by the halfway point of the season, Andrew, the doors would open that room and he would be there. And he would be happy to chat, not just with me, with other people. And he would be just had a smile on his face. And about 3/4 through the season, I sat down with him and we had a great conversation. And he told me he finally feels like he's home. Like he didn't feel like he was home in Vancouver. There was a lot of things going on for him personally and professionally that just didn't make that the right fit. But the one thing he told me was, and I love it when players say things like this, but he said to me, my mom sent me a text at one point this season. I think he said it was a text, or I can't remember, a phone call or text, and say, you're smiling again. When I'm watching you play, you're smiling. And, the way he explained that story, it was like, that was his way of saying, like, I'm home. I've found a home. So I think he really wanted to come back here. I think Ottawa wanted to get him on a small cap hit number. And I think they found a compromise. And that compromise is it's a 2-year deal. It's for, I think it's 1.1, whatever it is, 1.1, 1.2 million. And there's a no movement clause. So I think Hamonic came down. I think in an ideal world, he probably wanted something closer to $2 million a year. I think Ottawa wanted 1 year at $1 million. I think Ottawa gave a little bit on term. I think Ottawa gave a little bit on the no movement clause. And we've got this guy for 2 years. But I will say this. I believe he's come in here, Andrew. He's been the consummate pro. And I talked to some of his teammates too, and they're like, we love this guy. Love this guy. He puts his body in front of the puck, sacrifices himself. He's a well-liked guy who I think just went through a really awful stretch in Vancouver for a myriad of reasons, and he's happy to be here in Ottawa. And I think he's been nothing but an utter and consummate pro here with the Senators.
It is great to hear because, I've had nothing but great experiences with Hamonic here. And often it's been in the off season. It has been doing some charity events that he's always been a big part of. And you really got to know him back when he was with the New York Islanders and coming here early in his career. And it did seem strange as to so much of these narratives coming out of Vancouver about a guy that seemed completely contrary to anyone that worked with him in New York and a lot of people that knew him around here. And it just seems like something's different with him in Ottawa. And obviously with him signing that deal, it seems like he's very happy there. And for such a young team, a guy that has that sort of experience playing at that point on the blue line, it really does seem like a perfect fit.
Yeah, it does. And he spent a good chunk of last season kind of mentoring Jake Sanderson. And I think a big part of that was Travis is actually a really good communicator. And I think on the ice, he's a good communicator. And I think they appreciated him kind of walking Jake through some of the nuances of being a pro in your first year, some of the challenges on the ice, off the ice, whatever. They were happy that he was there to just be a sounding board. And so I think this season he'll have less of an impact. Like he won't play. I don't think he'll play top 4 minutes unless there's some injuries. but he's so well liked, and I think he's okay being a sixth guy on this team this season. And I think that's where he'll fit, probably playing alongside Eric Brandstrom to start the season.
Ian, this has been so much fun. Hey, just before we go, we got the Bombers heading into Ottawa to take on the Red Blacks.
Yeah.
Can our guy Bobby Dice get a break here? I mean, 2 quarterbacks down, and Masoli, you just got to feel heartbroken for him. I mean, this is a really unfortunate start to the season. I think had a lot of promise going into it for Ottawa.
Yeah, I've had a chance over the last couple of years, and I'm not, people who know me know I don't cover the CFL. I'm not a CFL guy, but a couple things. I've had a chance to kind of connect with Bob Dice on a couple of things. Like, you walk away from talking to Bob Dice, you're like, I'm cheering for that guy, right? Like you just like that guy. He's upbeat, he's funny, he's just a great communicator. Like, I always felt like, man, this guy would be an awesome, obviously he's a coach, but like he'd be a great teacher. Like he's got that way of delivering things. So when they decided to run back with him as the full-time head coach, I thought, well, that was good because he got the interim taste last year. Things were a little bit unplugged here in the La Police era, whatever. I thought, this is good. Bring him back in. And you're going to get Masoli back. And I know he wasn't ready right off the hop, but they wanted to be uber careful with him. And I'll tell you, I was actually watching the game on Saturday night. And I don't watch every Red Blacks game, but I watched this one. And when you see a guy go down with a non-contact injury, your heart, like, it's in your throat. But when it's the guy who last year had his knee taken out in one of the most brutal, horrific plays that I've seen on a football field, you just feel crushed. And then you're like, wait a minute, that's the other leg. Maybe this isn't so bad. And then when you find out it's the Achilles, you're like, well, this is just, it's awful. And the camera shot of his family in the stands, and it's almost like the football gods, like it happened in Hamilton, right? Where he had so many great seasons, and it was just like this, like, are you kidding me? Anyway, gut-wrenching situation there. I guess, where are they going to run? Are they running with Dustin Crum, is it?
I think so. And Tyrell Pigram, who everyone was all hot for here in Winnipeg during training camp, is now been signed. So kind of an interesting story. I got to tell you, I mean, the East is still, I think, somewhat wide open. Hamilton hasn't been very good. Montreal is so-so, but you can't win without quarterbacking. And our old pal Bob is really up against it, I think, with what's happened early on. But he is a great leader of men, and we'll see whether they can they probably got their hands full against the Bombers coming up this weekend, but it is a long season. Hey, Ian, always a pleasure having you on the program. Have a great summer. Let's do this again soon.
Yeah, anytime for you guys. Have a good one. And yeah, we'll be in touch.
Got to thank our friends at Vita Health, who have great prices on natural organic supplements, beauty products, and groceries. And Winnipeg's largest assortment of local products, too, with barbecue season in full swing. Get on down to Vita Health and stock up on some delicious Vita Market grass-fed bison and beef steaks. And, of course, they've got Garden of Life formulas like Prostate Protect and Once Daily Men's to help support men's gastrointestinal health. Vita Health Fresh Market, empowering people to lead healthy lives. 7 Winnipeg locations and online with local delivery options at myvita.ca. Our friends at Wallace & Wallace are rocking this summer as Winnipeg's fencing and overhead door specialist since 1946. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter did a number on your old one, give them a call. Vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And if it's time to replace your garage door, they've got Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. Give them a buzz at 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Road off of Kenniston. Hey, our friends at F Apparel are ready for the summer and wedding season. Are you? If you need to up your menswear game right now, get on down to F Apparel. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. In a wedding party, talk to them about a 15% discount for the entire wedding party when you get your suits at F Apparel. F's down at 190 Smith Street. Pop down and see them in person, or find out more online or make an appointment at F. That's EPHapparel.com. And hey, a big shout out to Nick and Nikki DQ for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk, and a special happy birthday to Nick, who had a big one yesterday along with his twin brother. And I'm sure They were crushing some of those delicious new summer blizzard flavors and maybe a blizzard cake for the big day for DQ Nick. Of course, if you do have a party coming up, you can order a custom blizzard or ice cream cake on Instagram at DQ Manitoba. Otherwise, pop by and see him at DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, DQ St. Anne's, or DQ Niverville. All right, let's keep the show rolling on. Enjoying all of your comments. I am getting somewhat ratioed about my anger about this cashless society we're turning into right now. Let's bring in Scott Billeck from the Winnipeg Sun. How do you feel about this?
What's
cash
the
no
comment?
longer an option at the arena, much like it is at the stadium right now. I know you're one of these press box guys that doesn't mingle with the commoners like the rest of us, but in theory, would you like to have the option to use regular Canadian currency as opposed to your bank card?
Yeah, like, I shouldn't answer because, like, I mean, I think they should just keep both options open, but, like, I understand why it's gone. Like, I've used cash so little since, like, the pandemic, right? Because, like, just, like, how it came, and then, like, mostly it's, like, grocery stores and whatever, like, we prefer, card if you have it. And I was like, well, I usually use a card, so I don't keep a lot of cash on me. But when I went on the road this year in the U.S., right, like, if you have a little, like, they don't, they had no problem with it, right? So, like, it was just like, oh, you have a little bit of U.S. cash, and that's, everybody was using it.
It's
so
funny you say
it's kind of got.
It's funny you say that because we were in Nashville,
right?
And so, like, we each got some U.S. cash for both me and Reem on the program, or just for the week, and a couple places we went to were cash only,
right?
And then I wanted to get a hoodie in the Preds team store, and it was card only.
Like, you can't do both, right? Or you can't do one or the other. Like, if you have to, like, it has to be all together, doesn't it? Right? Like, because if you're just gonna, like, it just makes no sense if it's not just, like, if you're just gonna get rid of cash, fine, do it. But there needs to be more options, right? Like, I mean, you can use your phone and all that stuff now, but, like, the technology's got to be a little more reliable first, I think, before we
just wait till they have the debit option on VLTs.
Oh, jeez.
I'm just realizing, right? And people in the chat are making me feel like I live more in the seedy underworld of this city that actually still uses cash because it's completely gone.
Well, you putting those fat stacks down onto your poker game?
Yeah.
Exactly. Bottom of Bar Italia. Yeah.
Exactly. Hey, let's get to, obviously this is a slow time for the National Hockey League. And we just had a great chat about the Sens and the Jets with Ian Mendes.
Yeah.
I will say this, and I mentioned this earlier. I think the return for DeBrincat makes what the Jets did with Pierre-Luc Dubois look pretty darn good right now. But, obviously development camp was a big success for a lot of reasons, more in the community, and these are talented young players. We'll see what happens in the future with them. But right now, Scott, the Dubois trade was big. You're bringing back Nemetsnikov. LB's in the fold. What do you make of sort of the last month of Jets moves and where the roster sits right now, not knowing what's going to happen with Hellebuck or with Scheifele?
Yeah, I mean, I think so the Brinket thing to me is isolated, right? Like, to me, that's like, hey, this guy was really only going to sign probably long-term at home, and he's from Detroit or just outside of it or whatever. So you wonder if, like, he was kind of like, if they were kind of troubled into that deal with Ottawa, right? Like, it was a little, I don't want to call it forced, but there wasn't many other options. So you just kind of took what you could take at the time. I think for Scheifele, it's going to be different because I think there's going to be teams out there that, I mean, obviously the money long-term is going to be a problem because I think that's just the issue. And I think that extends to Connor Hellebuck this summer as well, because, I mean, one, you already saw the Sorokin deal, so you're like, okay, well, that's probably what Hellebuck's going to get, and it might be $250,000 more to make him, one of the higher paid goalies in the league or whatever. But I don't know. It's just the market's not great right now, and if Boston's holding out for Elias Lindholm out of Calgary, well, then what does that mean for Scheifele, right? Maybe they don't get Elias Lindholm, and then you circle back to Scheifele. Does Carolina look into a guy like Scheifele? I don't know. I mean, the problem is, like, caps are so brutal right now, and you don't want to be signing guys to 1 to 2 year deals, and especially with Scheifele, because you don't want to just walk him to UFA status. So I'm sure that if there was a good trade out there, like they would have done it. And it makes with the Dubois deal, right? Like that deal, I mean, the funniest thing I heard about that was robbed Billeck, right? Like that was one of the things that they said. And I thought that was funny because like it was a pretty good return given the parameters of, what was going on. And then you look at obviously the DeBrincat deal and you're like, man, like Ottawa kind of, you got what you got, right? I mean, that's all it is. But I think for Scheifele and Hellebuyck and, maybe I'm still skeptical of Kevin Cheveldae. Like I don't think the ideal idea here is to go into the season with 2 lame ducks, right? I especially if they're both unwilling to resign, that's not ideal for this Jets team. There's a lot of risk that's introduced there with injuries and all that. You could take him to the deadline and all that.
That's like that doesn't happen every year with course, every 100%. Team in the league.
Right, but the Jets can't afford to lose these 2 for free, right? Like that's what I'm saying, right? Where other teams maybe can get away with it. I mean, I always look at Columbus and a few years ago when they didn't trade Panarin, they didn't trade Bob, and it's.
I can make an argument that you'll get more at the deadline than if you traded those guys right now.
Right, but what if the Jets are in a good playoff position? Are you going to?
And you got a really tough decision to make.
Then you have a huge exactly, and so you almost get in your own way, right, by doing that, and it just adds an element of risk, right? Because I can see if you get to the deadline, the Jets are second and third in the conference, or sorry, in the division, where it's not just like a coin flip if they're going to make the playoffs. Then you're like, oh, I mean, like that gate for the playoffs, especially if you have a good team, starts to look pretty appealing. And then you're like, oh, maybe you're going to play more than 2 games at home, and you're not going to be facing Vegas in the first round and all that kind of stuff, right? So like that's where it becomes. It's just like you kick the can down the road and you hope the trade deadline opens up. Maybe you hope something opens up in September or December or in training camp or whatever. A guy gets injured, a goalie gets injured unfortunately, and then another team, especially a contender, goes out and makes a move for a guy like Connor Hellebuyck. But to me, it's still risky. And I think Cheveldae said a lot of things about he's fine or whatever, but he also said multiple times that the summer's long and there's still a lot of the runway left and all that. I do believe that they're still actively looking to move both of those guys because of some of the things that I'm saying. And because I just think if you're going to completely rebuild the team into a team that of guys that, are all in, want to be here and all that, I don't know if you want to have the 2 guys that don't want to be here or aren't going to, don't want to sign long-term. What does that kind of create in the room? What does that kind of create, just in Jets land?
Okay, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that because I listen, as far as Hellebuyck goes, no issue whatsoever. If you're going to get, you're going to get what you're going to get for him, and the market's not good right now. I mean, I wouldn't suggest, and I don't think anyone is, trade him in a bad market and get 50 cents on the dollar for either of those players. That's not good for the team, certainly not good for the general manager. Going forward. And I think Hellebuyck comes in, he's a goalie, they're off doing their own things, he'll make saves when he's going to play, it won't be an issue. I really do wonder, Scott, and I'll put this to you right now.
Yep.
How do things go if Mark Scheifele's back in training camp? Blake Wheeler's gone, presumably they're giving the captaincy to somebody that is not Mark Scheifele. Josh Morrissey or Adam Lowry, I think, are the obvious 2 choices. And we can't overlook what happened in the last couple months with Rick Bowness. And I have no doubt Rick Bowness will be a professional. He'll do everything he can to try to get Mark, off to a good start and everything. But how do you see that? How will that be problematic?
I think it will. And I don't see it, right? I mean, I think they do everything humanly possible to move Mark Scheifele before they can, because I don't think they want to re-sign him long term, no matter what the GM says. I don't think that's the thing. I think the apple doesn't fall too far from the Blake Wheeler tree when it comes to Mark Scheifele, right? And I think we see it, but I think it goes further than that. Like, I mean, how do we not forget after Carolina when he just quit? Those again. So this is a team that's trying to push the future. We saw it all last week with the thing. You can't have that kind of poisoned apple around this team. Not that McGroarty is going to be here or Barlow or any of those guys, but even some of the younger guys on the team right now, or the Iafallos or the Gabe Villardis or whatever. Like this team, if the whole idea of this summer is to one, revamp the roster, but two, and probably maybe just on shoulder to shoulder level, is revamp the culture on this team. How do you bring back Mark Scheifele, who in my opinion, and I think I speak for some fans and that as well, somebody who hasn't always lived up to the culture that this team, especially when they moved to Rick Bowness, because we saw it last year in the beginning of training camp. It looked like Mark Scheifele was all on board, everything changed, but as soon as something was happening that Mark Scheifele didn't want, and I remember going back to, he moved out to the wing, right? And I think it was Scheifele, or was it might have even been Bowness. It's like, well, we'll see what Scheifele wants to do, and then we'll see how he's like that. That's just not, it has to be what's best for the team, not just what's best for Mark Scheifele. And I think that's the problem with bringing back Mark Scheifele. There's too much of a skew towards trying to make Mark Scheifele happy, and that can be at times detrimental to the team. And so if that's the plan, like if I think you have to find a team, look for a team out there that needs a center, because there's a few of them, and Boston would be one of them, but I think Elias Lindholm might be higher on their list. And I think there's a reason why Elias Lindholm's a little higher on that list, because he doesn't have the kind of baggage that a Mark Scheifele has. But at the same time, there's going to be teams out there that think that they, whatever, this is a 42-goal guy, and that's what matters. And they can, they think they can get him to have some of his best years, in a different space. But I think for Blake Wheeler, the same it was for Blake Wheeler, I think just a mutual break and, scenery, different grass is greener on the other side, whatever you want to call it. Like, I just think they need to move on from both of those guys because of how they've kind of dictated the way that this team has been for the last few years. And at the end of the day, that's if you got to go all in on this. Like you started it, and this is kind of the idea, and you have like maybe no time better than now to really kind of pick other teams that you could maybe kind of work with this. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I don't think they can bring Mark Scheifele back. I mean, that's just the way that it is. I think he's very similar to Blake Wheeler, and I don't think that it does any side good here to bring him back into the roster, unless you're really just trying to go for it one last year. But again, I mean, that would be insanity in my opinion. Like you're really trying to move this team. It's gotten a lot younger. You don't want Gabe Villardi kind of learning from that in that environment, because he's come from an environment with, big time leaders like Drew Doughty and Anze Kopitar and guys like that. But Phil Deneau, you don't want him learning, in my opinion, from Mark Scheifele. I mean, that's just
Well, and frankly, I think you want to have a room that welcomes those guys in
100%,
and allows Villardi and allows Iafallo to sort of maybe step up, like people are looking at for Morrissey and Lowry, and really to be the culture carriers of that. And it will be fascinating too. I mean, listen, I've had enough to say about Scheifele's leadership, or at times lack thereof. But he's had an A on his jersey for the last number of years. I mean, I can guarantee you, if you pump truth serum into the shot callers in the Winnipeg Jets, and they were saying, who are your three leaders going into next season, he probably would not be one of them.
No.
But again, if he's still here and he's had it the whole time, how do you take that away? And then what does that do going forward?
Yeah.
Listen, there's a potential that it could be somewhat messy. The other side of it is, Scott, that, and again, I do have my questions on this as well, because, I mean, listen, it's a contract year. And one of the things that came out in a number of conversations with people in Nashville, just you trying to gauge what they're hearing about interest in Mark. Part of the reason why the market is a little deflated on him, I mean, listen, his reputation's taken a little bit of a hit, and people I think have noticed and heard what's been coming out of Winnipeg. But the other part of it is that there is an expectation that with his new representation, they're going to be asking or expecting for a monster deal that, listen, it's going to have to be earned this year. If Scheifele wants anything close to what we're hearing that he wants, he's going to need to tick off all the boxes of things that he's done before and do a bunch of other things a heck of a lot better. Care about the defensive end, maybe, be a little bit more of a team player. I mean, I did say, hey, if you thought the guy was selfish before, what's he going to be like when, his entire next contract and the last one really of his career is depending on what he does this year? There's two sides to that story.
100%. Yeah.
And I'm not here to say I can tell you unequivocally because it's going to be one or the other. I will say this. If Mark is back, it is going to take every single bit of experience in Rick Bowness to navigate that and to get the best for the player and for the team out of a situation that I think is not ideal. And that's a big part of why we've heard his name so much in trade rumors since the end of the season.
Yeah, and it's just like that last bit that you said, just like that's the reason why you got to kind of find as best as you can to weigh out for Mark. Because, like, what are we asking a 68-year-old Rick Bowness? I think he's 68 now, maybe still 67, whatever he is. Like, you're literally asking a coach to basically babysit a player for the entire season and try and find new ways instead of, like, it takes the focus to me off of the team entirely, right? Like, it's like, okay, how do we integrate Mark into this lineup where we're going to get the best out of him? And I agree. Like, this is a contract year for Mark Scheifele. He doesn't really have a choice but to go out there and perform. But I think at the end of the day, you can overlook some of the whatever. If he's putting up 40, 45 goals, maybe he comes close to 50, right? Like, people are just going to look at that and be like, okay, you back up the Brinks truck, right? Because, like, there's a lot about, how coveted centers are, how coveted top line centers are. And goal scoring is the hardest thing to do in this league. And so you got a guy who can potentially put up 50, right? Like, I mean, I think that's still the ceiling, or not the ceiling, but the upside of Mark Scheifele is that's there. But it's just that last part to me that you said there, that's the problem, right? Like, this is a Jets team that doesn't need to go into the season with all of these kind of question marks, right? Like, we've come off 2 seasons now with tons of questions about this team, right? About trust and respect and leadership and accountability and if it's the right roster or not and the players. And so now you're in that mode where you're starting to move some guys out. You bought out Blake Wheeler, you traded Pierre-Luc Dubois. You're halfway home, right? But you still, like, this isn't a thing. Like, this is like getting to the Western Conference final, but not winning that or the Stanley Cup. Like, I think you still have to try and win the summer by moving a couple of those guys out so you don't have to worry about all the questions going into the season about lame duck status and is Mark going to figure it out, and are Mark and Rick Bowness going to get along, and is Connor Hellebuyck going to be the same goalie if he his head's elsewhere? Like, I don't think Connor Hellebuyck changes at all. I think he's a consummate pro in that regard.
No worries about Hellebuyck. He'll be fine.
Exactly. But the Scheifele thing, like, you said it best. If it has to be this, if Rick Bowness is playing head coach and babysitter at the same time, and I get it. I mean, I get it. Coaches have to manage these things, but we know how difficult, and we've watched it with, I mean, not so much Claude Noel, but definitely with Paul Maurice, definitely with Dave Lowry, and definitely now with Rick Bowness. And so, like, if the history wasn't there with Rick Bowness, and you had to, like, if this was the first summer or the first season of Rick Bowness, like, I could see it a little bit more. But again, we've seen it again where Mark and a head coach did not see eye to eye, and it affected his play. And at the end of the day, really, it affected the team's game, because when your top line center, your best center, isn't playing his best, that's a huge problem, especially in this town. And so, I mean, to me, it's just like, if you're going to move one for sure, it's got to be Mark. And, it's just the way it is. I mean, yeah, you could be happy and you'd be like, oh, we got one really great year at the end out of Mark Scheifele and we dealt him at the deadline. Well, how much work has to be done to get that out of Mark this year from Rick Bowness, and how much does that take away from the team? I don't know. But
well,
it's just something that I don't think that's worth risking, right?
Everyone knows where I'm at on this, but I will say, I mean, I can envision 2 scenarios on this. Like, listen, I'm steadfast.
Sure, yeah,
I don't think it's smart. They should not consider extension. And if they can get a decent offer for him right now, do it. Although, as Rook of the Year says, who plays number 1 center if you're trading him right now? I mean, it really does take a big thing. And if you can get a guy that realizes, hey, you know what, do a bunch of things where you can really buy in to what this team is doing. It will help you in the future, even if it's not exactly the way you want to do it. I mean, there could be some real positives, but again, then you get into the situation where you're getting so close to, like, if things really do go well,
Yeah,
and then you're at the deadline.
It creates another problem, right? Like, yeah, I get, but I mean, we've seen that.
It's cleaner to do it now if you can.
It is, because we saw this in Columbus, right? Like this, it's not like this happened in Columbus 20 years ago. This happened like 3 or 4 years ago, where they had Artemi Panarin and Sergei Bobrovsky, and you're like, wow, we could go into the playoffs with these guys, and we had a chance. And then that's what they did, and I believe they won their first round series that year. And so, like, I get it, like, but that's the first series Columbus had ever won. So, like, it makes some sense, and, like, you know, what it does for the community and all that kind of thing. But this isn't the same with the Jets, right? Like, this isn't, the Jets have been to the playoffs a few times. They need to get further in the playoffs. Like, the idea here isn't just to make the playoffs and hope for the best. Like, the idea is to be better than that, right? It's to move further. And so I don't know, like, you put yourself in a really hairy position, I think, in that sense, if you wait till that point. And the Jets sometimes, I feel, get in the way of themselves enough. So, you know, why kind of put yourself in the situation where you either got to, like, you know, cut off your leg or cut off your arm?
Well, I'm telling you, the reason why it's pretty obvious, because the market's not there right now. And, I mean, 100%. Surely you or no one is saying, "Oh yeah, just get rid of him for whatever."
No.
I mean, you can't do that. And
then that's so right. You're probably, you know, we're probably not giving enough. Well, at least I'm probably not giving enough credence. I'll speak for myself here, to the fact that, yeah, like, you can't give them away for free. Like, this isn't Vegas where you're just like, you know, you can have Marc-Andre Fleury for nothing, or you can have Match Pacioretty for nothing. Like, no, like, especially for these guys, like, if especially Scheifele, because, you know, I think the market has cooled on goalies this summer because of what's available, or what was available. Potentially John Gibson's still available. That whole fight with Frank and KO Sports and all that, who knows? But I still think that John Gibson's was. But, you know, I do think that maybe Hellebuck, it could be different there. But I think for Mark, like, there's a potential, at least there was, you know, with Boston, depending on how that goes. Like, maybe you could get Jeremy Swayman on the back of that, and then you have, you know, your kind of tandem going forward, plus potentially your franchise goalie also going forward, and that sort of thing. So, like, I think the Mark would brought the best return, but, you know, obviously that DeBrincat trade kind of threw some cold water on that as well, because you kind of look at, okay, I mean,
another guy that scored 40, younger,
exactly, right, younger, exactly, and isn't going to make as much as probably Scheifele was going to,
and only signed a 4-year deal as well. I mean, dream scenario for the Hellebuck side of things is they realize that there's no way he's getting what he deserves on a 7 or 8 year deal. And, you know, does 9.5 for 2 or for 3 years. Yeah, and then at some point you can trade him during that as you get ready, but you get a little bit more. Scotty, great stuff, man. Always love having you on the program. Take it easy, and we'll do this again soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
All right, folks. We got a very special guest coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk, the bulldozer of the Bombers, Brady Oliveira. Just before we bring in Brady, though, a big thanks to our sponsors, including Princess Auto. Big thanks to our friends over at Princess Auto. Looking forward to the next Bomber home game and another Princess Auto tailgate party starting 2 hours before kickoff with $5 beers, $3.50 pop and hot dogs, and great entertainment. Of course, Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. 2 Winnipeg locations, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West. And you can always shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Big thanks to our friends at Consolidated Supply for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Spicy, Joe, the gang down there, the leaders in irrigation systems, artificial turf, and golf carts, both new and used, as the exclusive club car dealer in Manitoba. We've also got other great options for your property, including amazing hot tubs and awesome outdoor kitchens. Not to mention, they are the experts and leaders in small engine parts and repair. Pop by and check them out, and check out the new Consolidated Supply showroom, open to the public at 1395 Niagara Road East, or find out more online at cte.ca. NFL season's just around the corner. And all that new merch is coming into Royal Sports as well. Of course, you know they've got the best selection of Winnipeg Jets gear, Blue Bombers gear, all the new Sea Bears hats as well, and soccer merch from around the globe. Also, Toronto Blue Jays and every NFL team represented over at Royal Sports. And it's not just great merch. Take advantage and make the most of your summer with soccer, baseball, softball, tennis equipment, disc golf, and a huge selection of bikes. Pop down and see it for yourself, 750 Pembina Highway, and follow them on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. And hey, where's the best place to get together with friends for the big game? You know it. It's always your local Boston Pizza. Enjoy ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, and gourmet pizzas, and the latest from the BP feature menu, including the new Korean barbecue chicken sandwich. And hey, if you're staying in, you can always order online at bostonpizza.com. And don't forget, folks, Gold Eyes are back. A 6-game series with Cleburne, all the way up from Texas, begins tonight. You can get out there and check out Gold Eyes baseball over the course of this week, but make a point of circling July 26th on the calendar and join us for our Winnipeg Sports Talk night. Great response so far. We've had to hold more tickets, but that's a good problem to have. Order yours now. $15. They include a Winnipeg Sports Talk koozie while supplies last. We've got some great Gold Eyes raffle prizes as well, which will be given away. Get to winnipegsportstalk.com. Order your tickets today and join us July 26th at the ballpark. But in the meantime, get on out there for one of these 6 games this week, beginning tonight at Shaw Park.
All right.
All right, good stuff. Don't forget tonight, retro night at the ballpark for the Gold Eyes. Get there early. I think they're giving away those fanny packs, wearing those sweet 30th anniversary jerseys they did in the 94 season. Should be a heck of a lot of fun. And again, head to winnipegsportstalk.com. Get your tickets 2 weeks today. We're doing the big Winnipeg Sports Talk group night. Tons of people have already counted themselves in. We'd love to see you there. Let's move on to the Bombers in Ottawa, Saturday afternoon. And the CFL's leading rusher, Brady Oliveira, joins us now on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Brady, what's going on? Great to have you back on the show.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me back on. It's been a while.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, listen, we've been enjoying watching what you and the squad have been doing, man. That was a vintage Bomber second half. And I got to tell you, I'm not sure whether there's been a longer drive than 9 minutes and 37 seconds. Over the last 4 or 5 years. But that to me was vintage Bomber football, and it looked like you and the O-line were having a hell of a lot of fun as you put that game to bed. Take us back to the second half in that fourth quarter and how you guys took over that football game.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth right there. It was a whole lot of fun. That's our identity, around this team, around this offense is our bread and butter. Let's run the ball. Let's get the big guys up front going. And, like we were saying, once those guys up front are going, this offense as a whole is really on. They're on fire when they can get, guys moving up front, move the line of scrimmage, allow me to get to the second level and do what I do. So it was good. I mean, that game, last week's game kind of started off a little bit slow for us in the run game, but I think, we stuck to it. We trusted the run game, knowing that it eventually will open up. And I always say, I mean, if we play the way that we play, which is, smart, tough, physical football, emphasizing on the physical part of it, we do that for 4 quarters, a defense isn't going to want to play that type of football for 4 quarters. They're not going to want to tackle a running back that's running physical for 4 quarters. And I think you saw that in the Calgary game. Calgary did a great job for the first, 3 quarters and even a little bit into the fourth. And then we really just, stuck to it and took over in the fourth and played our style of football. But the offensive line is doing an amazing job right now. Our receivers, are coming in and doing the dirty work. Receivers in this league are, taught to run and catch the football. And this offense, you got to be willing to block and to lay your body in the line. And our receiver, Wally, Rashid, Damsky, I mean, our receivers go in there and do that and allow me to, get to the second level and to do what I do. So total team effort in the run game. And obviously there's going to be weeks where, the run game might be a little off and we expect, our receivers to go up and make big plays. So total team effort.
It's funny you mentioned the receivers because I was going to ask you about that. I mean, Rasheed Bailey's a favorite of ours. I mean, he's so much fun to talk to. I mean, I think he might be the most intense individual I've ever met in my life. I mean, like 24/7. I mean, he is
No doubt.
wired.
He's always on, man.
But he may be like to your point about the receivers. I think he epitomizes the selflessness of the players that have become part of this championship squad. The way he leans into dudes in the running game, and I mean, listen, you can see how guys react to the different tasks that they're given by the coaching staff, and he in particular. But I mean, not to single him out because a lot of the guys that you just mentioned are getting into it. They know that they are a big part of running the football, even if it's not going to show up in their stat package at the end of the game.
100%. And I think you said the word of, our guys being selfless and showing that on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis. Everyone in this sport is going to have an ego. We need you to have an ego. We need you to think that when you get the ball, you're going to score or you're going to make a big play every time you get the ball. But it needs to come a time where, this is a team sport. You got to put that ego to the side and be selfless. And it's hard sometimes, especially at this level, when you want to get the production and the touches. And I'm, very blessed to be in the position to get the amount of touches I do get in a game. You look at a receiver, in our offense, the blocking, the running that we do in this offense, our receivers are, they go in there and they block. And like you said, not to just, point, just to look at one particular receiver in our offense that does such a good job of it, because like I said, Wally, Dembski, Dalton, like the list goes on. All of our receivers, if you want to be a receiver in this offense, you got to block. But man, Rasheed Bailey, like that dude is so selfless. He wants the ball, of course, but even if he doesn't get the ball, he is in there doing the dirty work. And it really, allows me to, it's like I have an extra big boy in there that's willing to go in there and to block for me. And it's, we're able to do we're able to scheme a lot of things around Sheed, knowing that, we have a receiver like that that's willing to go in there and block and not even just willing. He does such a good job at it now. Like he is a total vet when it comes to the run game blocking. He understands the bigger picture, and having a guy like that where it's just not like, okay, that's your guy, go block him. It's like, okay, well, if your guy now switches or moves, like you need to know who do you go to next. And Rasheed understands that. He's a vet. He's been playing this game for a very long time. So in the run game, I mean, it helps, us big time, but me personally big time. I was actually in the offseason when Sheed was going through all of his contract talks, and we're so lucky and fortunate to have him back. He's such a big part of this team, but I needed him back, personally. This team needed him, but I needed him because he does such a good job in the run game. And the success that I have is a big part of Rasheed allowing me to get to those second level, also the offensive line, but he just allows me to get to that next level and take that next step, breaking those longer runs, because he just does such a good job in the run game. And it makes me want to play harder when I got selfless teammates that are going to put themselves first, or put, you know what I mean? Like they do such a good job. So, this whole locker room is amazing, but obviously we spent so much time as an offense together, and everyone is so selfless. And I think that's the best word to use to describe this offense is we're selfless. At the end of the day, we just want to win football games. However we can get it done, we just want to win.
Hey, what's it like in the huddle in the fourth quarter when you've picked up a couple first downs running the football? You know what the story is. Just keep the ball and keep moving the chains. And the plays keep coming in, and Buck keeps calling another run. What are the O-linemen saying in that huddle right now before you get back out there to snap it?
It's fun. I think it just fires us up. When we have another run play called, especially the runs that, have been working and some of our bread and butter, our favorite runs that, I'm not going to say what our favorite runs are, but, in that huddle, we know what runs we want to get called. And when they get called, we're fired up. But actually I got to, say a little story from last game in the huddle in that fourth quarter when the plays are coming in. So like you said, Buck keeps calling, run after run after run. And of course, they're feeding me and I'm getting into a groove. So I remember my hands being on my knees and I'm just bending over. We're about to get into the huddle. Zach's running into the huddle to call the play. And Zach is like, Brady, are you good? like, you want a breather? And I remember getting up and looking right at Zach. I'm like, Zach, you cannot take me out of this huddle. Like, I will not leave this huddle. You're going to have to drag me out of this huddle before I go take a breather. So, yeah, when I'm locked in, I don't care if it's 5 carries, if it's 10 carries in a row, even 10 blocks in a row, whatever it is. I owe it to my teammates. I owe it to my teammates to go out there and honor them every single play, battle my behind off, and play for them and go get W's every single week for them. So makes you, I think when you're in a huddle like that and you care for one another so deeply, we all love each other, man. Like, we're all brothers. And I think when you have that relationship, when I'm tired in that moment, it can be very easily to, go, hey, I need a breather. But I look to the guy next to me. I see Wally in there that I love that dude to death. I'm like, man, I can't leave. I got to stay in this huddle and I got to go get another first down and we got to seal this game off. Right. So, no, this is definitely a special huddle to be a part of and special offense because it makes me want to play harder, man.
The big boys up front certainly seem to enjoy it as well, kind of exhibiting. And like we've talked before, I mean, football, as complicated as so many of the plays are and the strategies, the amount of hours that the coaches spend game planning, this game is won and lost on the line of scrimmage. And if you look at this last 5-year period for the Bombers being, a championship caliber team, it really has started on the line of scrimmage on both sides. And Willie J and Jackson on the defensive side and the offensive line. And I mean, that was, I think, a reminder to everyone in the rest of the Canadian Football League that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are still a problem for the rest of the league. That being said, it was only a couple weeks ago that, listen, you guys have certainly deserved an off night. I mean, you've set the bar so high. But I have to ask you, what was it like in the locker room and in the days following that loss to BC where, for the first time in 5 years, you lost to a Western opponent and I mean, credit to BC. They came in and played their asses off and certainly deserved to win that football game.
Yeah, I mean, look, we got whooped. They made more plays than us. I personally do think it was for sure a one-off. I mean, I don't think you're going to see that happen again. It's almost like we're glad that it happened. Maybe not as early as it did in the season. But I think you look at even, last year and the year before that, there's always been, a game where, we've kind of been maybe a little bit lackadaisical and kind of get caught slipping. But I think it's good. I think it humbles you. We need to remind ourselves every single week that, to stay humble because you can get beat any given day, especially in this league, with, not a lot of teams in this league and, you can get beat any week. So, yeah, I think it's the main message was obviously, don't take your opponent lightly and to not ever get outworked again. Because I think you saw that in the BC game. We got outworked on the line of. We're just talking about the line of scrimmage, and that these games are won on the line of scrimmage. And I think BC dominated us. They did a good job on all 3 phases, and we got outworked. We're a team that takes pride in the process and working hard and embracing the grind. And I think we just kind of, maybe took a little step back, almost like we were expecting to win every single game. And we need to still give, credit to our opponents because, like I said, you can get beat any given day. But yeah, I think it was a good reminder that, you can lose any given week and you got to stay humble and you got to just not get outworked. So, like I said, that's a one-off from this group. I don't see that happening ever again this season. Yeah, we just got to make sure now we just continue to stay consistent and keep on, getting to this level instead of being like this. Start fast and continue to find ways to keep improving every single weekend and to get on, the incline level instead of just like a roller coaster.
Listen, we know as I said, the bar's been set so high by this team. And by everyone in the locker room that, when you have a game like that I'm sure it makes everybody kind of look in the mirror as to what they can do better. And certainly we saw, real strong performance, especially on the defense. I mean, the way the defense bounced back in the following game, holding the opponents to 3 points and then really not giving up anything in the second half speaks well. I mean, what sort of level of confidence does it give your offensive group when you see the Blue Bomber defense playing at the level that it does quite often did, for instance, in that second half against Calgary?
Man, they're, I guess, like, they've been on fire, but when they're on, like, we know as an offense that, when they're on the field, that they're going to get us the ball back pretty quickly. So just to stay ready, you never know if it's first down, second down, like, okay, second down, after that, a punt, get ready. But for us, it's like, get ready when the defense is on the field, like, have your helmet close by because we might be heading on there. So, Willie with Jackson back now, I think Jackson's such a terror on that D line. I mean, Willie's one problem, but I think when you have Jackson out there too, I mean, he's a problem. Biggie in the middle, BA having, a great season. Damari Houston with like 6 turnovers right now on the season. I mean, our defense is playing lights out right now. I think what it gives us as an offense being on the sidelines is that, they're going to have our back. If we, make a mistake, everyone's going to make mistakes, but, when we do as an offense, they're going to have our back. They're going to get us the ball back to go out there and to execute and to go get points on the board. So knowing that, we have a defense like that, and knowing that we're never going to be on the sidelines for that long is a good feeling.
And just as, you mentioned Houston, I mean, the season he's having is, making big plays like in the fourth quarter. And I got to ask you about Greg McCrae. I mean, you talk about a guy that came in and did everything in many different ways to help your team win a football game. I mean, that wheel route that he took to the house to tie the game up at the end of the second half. But I mean, the play of the week in the Canadian Football League was that return on the missed field goal, 102 yards. I mean, for the guys that are sitting there ready to get on the field, putting your helmet on, ready to get out there, what's it like watching a teammate make a play like that? Often it's Jannary and Grant. This time it was Greg stepping up.
Dude, that guy is a beast. And I've been saying this, probably not openly in the public because no one really been talking about Greg like that, but I've been saying to people how much of a guy he is. Like that dude is a stud. Like him as a human being is another thing. Like that dude is like such a good person. Like first off, which is why I love him so much. Like he's such a good guy, but as a football player, man, he's a stud. And it's almost like he's been our diamond in the rough this whole time. Like last year, it's almost like we were hiding him almost like, okay, like you saw little, glimpses of Greg. Oh, who's this? What's this guy all about? And then, I'm so happy that he's getting his opportunity now and showing what he can do. But man, that he's a stud. And I think for me also why I enjoy having him out there is because I think he complements me so well. You can have, first off, he can play multiple positions as a receiver. He can play running back. He can return. So right there, him have a weapon like that is very useful. Buck Pierce probably loves that as offensive coordinator. No, you can just like plug a guy in anywhere. But me being a running back and playing the way that I do, it's almost like he's, I'm thunder, he's lightning, and he complements me so well. When we're both in there, it's like chaos for the defense. We don't know who's getting the ball. You don't know who's doing what. When he's in there, he really, throws off the defense. They're expecting, they've been expecting power runs this whole game. And now he goes in there and it throws the defense off. So I think it's good. I think it'll allow us to do, more things in this offense. Having a guy like that, that's like another Swiss Army knife. We got Dembski like that. We got Greg. It's a good problem to have. Now we just got to continue to find ways to, elevate his game and find ways to get him the ball. And yeah, he's going to have a very good career in this league. And I just couldn't be happier just because I've seen all the work that he's put in, him being on PR, pretty much all last year, and him knowing what his worth is and knowing what he can do on the football field. And he's showing that now. So just couldn't be happier for the guy.
Brady Oliveira, the Bombers, the CFL's leading rusher, with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Speaking of being the leading rusher, 400 down, many more to go this season, but it's good news for the kids at Variety. I know you're particularly excited about that because every yard is some money for a Variety Club.
Absolutely, yes. Variety, I partnered up with Variety to do something pretty cool with them this year. It's called Hometown Champion. So I'm their hometown champion this year, and every yard that I gain this year, either rushing or receiving, $10 goes to the kids at Variety. So the sponsor is actually Monopoly Realty. So they're going to have to be paying some big bucks this year, because I expect to continue to get lots of yards every game, and hopefully by the end of the year we're able to have a lot of money raised and all that money going back to the kids. And Variety does, so many amazing things with, children living with disabilities, and the fact that I can, put my name behind that and partner with such an amazing charity like that. And now do lots of other things. The other day on our off day, I was actually helping kids ride a bike for the first time. They have a bike camp called I Can Bike. And I spent my afternoon helping kids trying to learn a bike, and they do the camp for the whole week. And the goal is at the end of the week, they take off their like training wheels, they call them, and they can ride a bike for the first time by themselves. So I'm able to do lots of cool things now with Variety, and people that know me in the community. I love giving back, whether that's with the rescue work or with kids or whatever the case is. I feel like this is my calling. Football is one thing, but I feel like my biggest passion in this life is to impact others and to go out there and do good things. So Variety Club is awesome, and we hope to get me to, I don't want to really speak on it, but I'll say it now because I want it for the kids, hopefully to get to another 1,000 yards. That's $10,000 to the kids, so we got to get to that this year.
Well, and then add in a few more receiving as well to keep
That's
topping
right.
it up. I have to say, obviously what you've done on the field is impressive, and it's extra special, having a kid, you're a man yourself, that grew up here and is now starring for the Blue Bombers. But it is, it's just phenomenal the way you embrace your role, but also the opportunity to make a difference in other areas of the community. And I think a lot of people knew plenty about what you've done, with dog rescues and, with, your animal passions. But it's just another really great thing that I think speaks to the place of the Bombers in this community, and how, the impacts that are made way beyond game day by a number of people. Speaking of the dogs, I know it's a little busier right now for you with, in the middle of the season. But I'm not sure whether this was something that you put out or something else that I saw on social media, but I do understand like the need for people to adopt these orphan dogs is at a real high right now, and almost a crucial area. You want to just quickly speak on that? I know it's one of your passions, and obviously if we can help one dog
Absolutely.
get saved, it's worthwhile talking about it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't think people understand the extent of how many animals are truly out there, and how many dogs or cats are needing homes. I'll put it into perspective. This was 2 weeks ago. We had, a longer week. We had a couple of days off, and on one of my off days, I went to one of the northern communities and I did a poll. We went out there and we handed out dog food to the community members, medication, tick and flea, whatever it was. And then dogs that were needing to be brought into our care, I was, getting them surrendered and bringing them back to Winnipeg. So long story short, we brought back 40 animals, cats and dogs, in just one afternoon of being in the community and not even really thoroughly searching for dogs. We were more so there on a wellness check to make sure it was a hot day, to make sure dogs got fresh food and water out, proper shelter, things like that. And after not even searching, we came back with 40 animals. So now we bring those 40 animals back to Winnipeg into our foster care. But now we need a rescue to take on those animals to now find their forever home and getting adopted. So you think about it, the average person is probably only adopting one pet. So that's 40 households that need to come together and to adopt those animals. And if people stop adopting these pets, it's like, well, I can't go to these communities and to, bring in dogs that truly need to be brought in that need our care. So yeah, I think the importance of, opening your home, if you have the space, to a dog, I think, or a cat, whatever it is, will change your life. You'll find, you'll find a special bond with that dog. And I think it's good. You're doing something good. You're finding a great companion, but you're also, giving that dog the life that it deserves, rather than going and, I'll always be for, adopting dogs rather than going to a breeder and buying a dog, because I think especially in this city and province, there's a need. So many animals that need to be adopted. So there's no need to go and buy a dog when you can just adopt.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, it's really cool to see what you're doing off the field, and I think we're all looking forward to seeing what you and the boys will have for us on Saturday afternoon in the nation's capital. Keep on doing what you're doing. Congratulations on a great win, great start to the season, and here's to 5-on-1 on Saturday afternoon. Good luck to you and your teammates, and thanks for jumping on again, Brady. It's always great to have you on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Good stuff. There is Brady Oliveira. 3:00 game time for the Bombers and Ottawa coming up on Saturday. And the Bombers with still yet to have their bye, but can get to 5-1 with a win. We'll talk a little bit more with Remis in a second about the plight of the Ottawa Redblacks and a former CFL quarterback that's a little more available today than he was earlier this week. Just before we do that, a big thanks to more of our sponsors here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, sorry, one sec.
What a great weekend at Folk Fest over the last few days. I know Little Brown Jug was a big supporter and sponsor of Folk Fest, and a lot of people out there enjoyed the Folk Fest lager. You can pick that up still right now throughout the summer at Little Brown Jug, along with 1919 and Generic Lager, both of which will be available at the ballpark coming up for Winnipeg Sports Talk Night and throughout the year. And of course, 1919 is available at the stadium, IG Field, as well, as they're now official partners with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Don't forget, Saturdays at Little Brown Jug on the patio. What's Golden is back coming up. They've teamed up with Shorty's Pizza, new food, new DJs every Saturday, noon until sunset. Great summer programming at Little Brown Jug. Find out more at littlebrownjug.ca. And, of course, follow them on Instagram and Twitter for the latest events coming up down at LBJ. Speaking of events, I cannot wait to get out to Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge coming up next month. Always my favorite 3 or 4 days of the year. If you are looking for an amazing corporate outing or friends and family trip where you can have a world-class fly-in fishing experience and be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, Aikens Lake is the spot. Find out more about the one-of-a-kind Aikens experience online at aikenslake.ca or hit our pal Pit Terren up at Aikens Lake on Twitter for more information. Limited availability left this season, and they're already booking in to 2024. And hey, we're just a couple weeks away from the Open Championship. This week, though, many of the stars of the PGA Tour heading out to the Scottish Open. And of course, we'll do our golf reports once the tournament begins for our friends at Breezy Bend Golf and Country Club. Course is absolutely mint right now. If you're looking for an amazing long-term home for you and your family on the golf course at one of Winnipeg's top private clubs, make it breezy. Talk to Corey Johnson at the clubhouse or find out more online at breezybend.ca about getting on the waiting list for the 2024 season. All right, great stuff with Brady Oliveira. And hey, a big shout out to SK. Thank you very much for that super chat. SK dropped in a $50 donation and said, please send some of this $50 to Brady for the animal rescue of his choice. Thanks, SK. Thank you very much. And Remo, I think we're going to have to send that to Canine Advocates of, I believe it's of Manitoba. We'll find out exactly the one, but I know that is the group that Brady has done such amazing work off the field for in the midst of continuing to carry the rock for the blue and gold. Yeah,
Canine Advocates Manitoba. That's the letter K and the number 9. I know Brady's involved with them, so we'll send some of SK's super chat over to them. So thank you very much, SK. I know SK has always he's got a soft spot for animals, and he's a big supporter of Brady. And I know SK, I think when he was in the Tournament of Champions, he said he wanted to sell his bomber tickets and donate them to an animal charity when he was in the Tournament of Champions there.
And Doug Phil with the message, spay and neuter your pets, y'all. That's a great bit. But anyways, just an awesome chat with Brady, and what a season that he's having right now. All right, we are going to get ready for the track tonight. Another great night. And don't forget, as I say, big night at the ballpark. If you're looking for somewhere to go, you got Assiniboia Downs out on the west side and retro night for the Gold Eyes. And they had a nice win last night. Great way to start this 6-gamer against Cleburne. I believe the Cleburne Railroaders. And don't forget, if you tuned in a little late, WinnipegSportsTalk.com. Get your tickets for WST night. Would love to see and meet you all at the ballpark 2 weeks today. Great response so far, and certainly we've got room for more, so hopefully make that happen. Yeah, Reem, Coolbet Lines, pretty light night when it comes to the what you can put a sprinkle on. We do have some Wimbledon matchups to get to. Tomorrow, early, Novak Djokovic taking on Sinner. Joker, a minus 556 favorite. And Alcaraz, the number 1 seed, versus Daniil Medvedev. Alcaraz minus 263. On the women's side of things, 2 unseeded players. Eva Svitolina against Vondrasova. Svitolina just beat the number 1 seed, Iga Swiatek. And wouldn't it be amazing? Her, a Ukrainian, getting to the Wimbledon final. I think there'll be a lot of people here pulling for her. Plus 118. And then Sabalenka, the favorite, at minus 167 in the other one as well. And let's take a quick look at what's going on in the CFL. The Ticats, 3-point favorites against the Elks tomorrow. Friday's game is the Argos and Alouettes. The Argos, who have looked great so far this year, a 5-point road favorite in Montreal. Bombers have settled as 9.5-point favorites against the Red Blacks. The Red Blacks have major quarterback issues. And then you've got the Saskatchewan Roughriders, minus 1.5 against Calgary. Interesting news, Remo. Maybe you want to touch on this. MBT officially released from the USFL, which opens up NFL and CFL opportunities for the former Grey Cup champ.
Yeah, that was the talk yesterday with John Hodge about the Ottawa possibly bringing in McLeod Bethel Thompson. Well, after the show, it was announced that he was released from the USFL. He is a free agent. He was with the New Orleans Breakers to be closer with his family, and he gave up a big check, Huss, from the CFL to join the USFL. And you have to wonder, one, if he would be interested in coming back, again, citing family reasons, why going down and taking a significant pay cut. So I'm not sure if that's something, Huss, that he would necessarily be interested in McLeod Bethel Thompson, but Ottawa needs a quarterback pretty bad. And he has played in the league, and it's kind of funny, like, not funny, but you just think about the quarterback tandem that beat the Bombers in the Grey Cup last year, and you kind of get mad because it was pretty clear the Bombers were the best team throughout the entire season, except for that final game. But this is why it's revenge season this year for the Bombers, and again, back to McLeod Bethel Thompson. I don't think he's coming back, but it's something for us to talk about, that's for sure.
Yeah, listen, it would be great for Ottawa. They could get a legitimate starting QB like that. I mean, we'll see what happens with Crum on the weekend, and Pigrom, who's now been signed by Ottawa, maybe he gets an opportunity to do that. But I feel for Bobby Dice. Like, we talk with Ian Mendes. I mean, to lose your top 2 quarterbacks in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, a hell of a tough way to start your first opportunity as a head coach. Just before we finish the Coolbet Lines, we had a big lock shop today. Coming off my 50-1 winner last week in Sepp Straka, we hit the Scottish Open and we hit the Barbasol. Check out today's lock shop. If you want to go on YouTube at Lock Shop Bet, subscribe over there as well. You can get all the picks from myself, Dusty, and Pat Gregoire. Our guy, Aaron Cockrell, playing on this side of the pond, normally a member of the DP Tour. Aaron is in the Barbasol Championship. Now, Aaron's number to win the tournament is 65-1. I did place a little top 10 on Aaron at plus 650. But I also called Pat. I said, Pat, can you please get our guy, Aaron Cockrell, added to the make the cut options? And there he is. So I will be backing Aaron to play the weekend, minus 133, right at the bottom there. If you do want to put a little sprinkle on Manitoban Aaron Cockrell playing over on the Barbasol Championship. And of course, you can get Scottish Open, Barbasol odds. It's all there over at Coolbet, and use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. All right, it's time to get to the track. I know there's some people in the chat that are going to be heading out there tonight. Actually heating up, Remis, after an ice cold start to the season. I've had a nice winner both of the last 2 days, and I've actually ended up on my bets, which certainly was a rarity in the first month of the season.
Yeah, and I'm kind of slowing down. A lot of my picks lately have been, I've kind of been breaking even here. I haven't been winning. I was winning early on, but the last couple weeks it's been rough. I'm just treading water here. So I'm hoping to get back in the green here tonight, Wednesday, the last day of live racing for the week. And shout out to, I think it was Kevin? Someone in chat has said they're going tonight for a work function. They're going to the buffet, and they're making sure they do not eat for the whole day so they can be ready. Veteran move by whoever that is. I forget if it was Kevin or not.
Well, you will. That's exactly what you should do. What Darren would said, it was that AAA Angus beef, top 5% in North America. They're getting it at Assiniboia Downs. I'm getting hungry just thinking about that, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I'm planning on taking my parents there next week, so
we might have to plan, yeah.
Well, and we'll do what we will. We're going to do the baseball game at the end of this month, and maybe mid-August we'll plan a Winnipeg Sports Talk night to get people out, whether we do the buffet or just get everyone out there in the grandstands and have some fun. But
you and I should have a WST meeting there one evening, I think.
Great idea.
I think we need to have a meeting.
Certainly in for that. All right, Reem, why don't you start? I don't have all of my picks in right now. I've got 1, 2, 3 so far, but I still have to make a couple more as we get through it.
Sure. Let me bring up my picks here. Let me see. Okay, race 2. I am on Pucker to win. Pucker. Like it.
Going with Pucker, eh?
Yeah.
Gold Special seems to be the heavy favorite in that one.
Pucker's got a decent win percentage, 15.7%, 8-1 odds. I like the odds on Pucker, the program selection. I wonder, do you think it's better to bet on races with a smaller field than some of these bigger ones? I'm always confused as to which.
I mean, obviously, just by math, you've got a better chance of winning. But at the same time, I think, most of the, put it this way, if you pick a winner in a bigger race, you're probably going to win more than you would in a smaller race. I mean, it's just essentially a math equation, right?
That is true. I don't know. Sometimes I like doing the trifectas in the smaller races, but for an easy win. But yeah, I guess you're not going to win. What do you win when you win, right?
Well, speaking of what do you win when you win?
Yeah.
Private Frank, this is the biggest favorite I've seen all year.
Which race?
Race number 3, Private Frank is 1-2.
Yeah, you never see
won its last 3 races. I love my life. Yeah, man, I'm not even going to touch this race. It just seems like it's so lopsided in one. You could lose it, but if you win, it's going to be one of those pays $2.20 on a $2 bet. Not worth it.
Yeah, hold on.
You got anything on race 4?
I'm on race 2. I'm on race 5. Nothing on 4. You have something on 4?
I'm gonna drop a win bet on Diva-esque horse number 1. Opening line of 3-1. Although this is, I think, a pretty wide open.
Diva-esque. Terrell Owens, or what do you think of when you think Diva-esque?
I just like the name.
What do you think of anyone?
Well, TO would be right up there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, race 5. I'm looking forward to this one, Reem.
Yeah.
I'm making 2 bets on the same horse.
Okay.
Hat Shep Sut,
Yeah, I've seen that horse.
who we've seen before. It is
Yeah.
the longest shot in the field at 30-1. I'm putting a $5 bet on them to place, and I'm going to put a $2 bet on them to win.
At 30-1.
At 30-1. At 30-1.
With
It's
zero
only had one
win
race
percentage.
this year.
Never
It
won
had
a
a
race.
one. Well, it won in its 2 races ago. Again, at the end of last year, it finished first in a 6 furlong race.
Is this like the horse that had Tommy John surgery and's coming back and like no one knows about it
That's
in
a
the
great
draft?
question. That is a great question. I'm not sure. But anyways, again, I'm swinging for the fences. I've had a couple of longer shots lately that have actually come through. And then my other one is, let me just get the transactions up here. Race 6, $2 exacta both ways, 2 and 4. Lucky Chucky and Blazing Bo. Shout out to Bo Bichette.
Yeah.
Looked great. Brought his mom to the All-Star game too.
Okay, I have Blazing Bow to win. I like Blazing Bow too. And then in race 5, I have a triactor. Not quite a triactor box. I'm doing 2 triactors, trifectas. Danzig Starstorm. I think that's Glenn Danzig reference to win in both with 1 and 6. Sparkling Silver and Silver Creek Lady. Go with the dual silver combo there. Huss finished 2nd and 3rd in either one with Danzig to win. So it's a $3, $3 triactors. There, maybe I can pull one of those off. And I got one more in race 7.
Yeah, what are you taking in race 7?
I'm taking Freudian Sip to win.
Excellent. I'm actually with you on that.
What about Herbie?
Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm taking as part of a triactor box. We'll go with the favorite drum and bass, Freudian Sip, and do I go with Aknas or do I go with Diamond Digger?
And we're off Otani the horse. Otani, we've discovered Otani the horse, not as good as Otani the ball player.
Definitely. Actually, I'm going to go towards the light. So 1, 4, 7.
You're okay, though. I know you were sick. You just said you were going to go towards the light. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, I know, towards the light. I mean,
Or the horse towards the light.
Yeah, race number 1, horse number 1. Hey, we got a big show tomorrow. It's actually going to be real fun. Murat's coming on. Brandon Rowicki is coming on. So we'll have plenty of off-season hockey talk. And Remo, one of our favorites, who's getting a lot of FaceTime on TSN lately, Marshall Ferguson. Dusty's sort of our guy in the East, and Marsh is becoming Dusty's our guy in the West. Marsh is becoming the guy in the East.
Yeah, well, the Bombers are heading east to play against Ottawa. I'm sure Marsh has seen a lot of them. I did, he's been busy with all the broadcasts, so I'm pumped to have Marshall on. Knows a lot about, Canadian Football League strategy and around the league. So I think that'll be a fun chat there with TSN_Marsh on Twitter.
By the way, shout out to Bailey. And Bailey, we trust Bailey with her breaking news bits in the chat. Jesper Boqvist, one-way deal with the Bruins, $775,000. This is bargain time in the NHL right now, Reem. Brendan Lemieux signed for $800K with the Canes yesterday.
Yeah. There's been some ELC signed as well from this year's draft class. Nate Danielson signing with the Red Wings as ELC, and 2nd overall pick Leo Carlson signing his ELC with the Ducks. Along with the ELC contracts, we do have a retirement to announce.
To announce?
Yeah, Thomas Greiss. His 14-year career ends. Do you know what team he was on last year?
Last year, Thomas Greiss. I'm going to say the Sharks?
No.
Detroit?
He was on Detroit 2 years ago. Last year, he was on St. Louis.
St. Louis.
Played 21 games, had a .896 save percentage, 7-10 record.
This is a little mini puck doku.
Mini puck.
How many games? How many teams can we name that Thomas Greiss played
I have it
for?
open. He did play with the Sharks. He started his career with the Sharks.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Sharks. I thought he went back there again. And did he play for Detroit?
he did. He played 2 seasons with Detroit.
Okay, let's see. Played for the Islanders.
He did play for the Islanders. That's correct.
How many more teams?
2 more teams. He did not play a lot of games with them, but he one
Just
season.
very, very minimal.
This is good trivia here.
Yeah, this is.
I don't think I would get
This is
these.
puck doku practice, is what it is
Yes.
right now. Habs.
No. You want one more guess?
One more guess. I will guess the Bruins.
No. Even
Okay, who are the other two?
In 13-14, he played 25 games with the Phoenix Coyotes.
Ooh, wouldn't
I have
that.
no recollection of this. 2014-15, he played 20 games with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then he spent a lot of time with the Islanders.
Yeah, Islanders was the one that I certainly remembered as the main part.
Yeah.
He played quite well there for a bit.
He was
bon
solid, yeah,
voyage,
man.
Thomas Greiss.
Man, in 18-19 has 43 games. It was 23-14-2, 927 save percentage, Thomas Greiss. That's pretty good. 228 goals against. That was his best year. Is that Barry? I would have to think Barry Trotz played a part in that.
Hey, before you go, why don't you pull up today's puck doku?
Sure, do you want the first puck doku or the second?
Well,
there
actually,
were 2.
you know what? There was some controversy today, folks. Explain this. I did not see it early enough to get the one that had the Jets.
Okay, so if you don't know Puck Doku, it's at puckdoku.com. It's the hockey trivia game where you try to match there's 2 axes. They have teams on them. And you try to match the player that played for each of them, or they have a stat category. And you have to figure out the player for that team that collected that stat that year. So we've been saying that they didn't have the Jets, and this is my completed one, Huss. I went for the low, and it gives you, the best part is it gives you the percentage of people who picked that player. So do you want me to reveal? So this one this morning had,
bring it up.
here, this is what it was. So, here it is. It had Ducks, Sharks, 50 assists in a season, and then Canucks, Hurricanes, Jets. And the reason why they had to do a new one is because people see Jets and they think that Jets 1.0. So you have Jets, Ducks, everyone's putting in Solani, and it's not counting. And people got pissed off and emailed Puck Doku and said, hey, what the hell, guys? And they had to reset it and do a new game. And this is why the NHL records
Which
are
sucks.
just...
The Jets are not going to be included anymore, ever.
Well, they're under the
this.
Coyotes. They're under Coyotes. When the Coyotes come up, then you can use Jets 1.0. But isn't it just so confusing that Ilya Kovalchuk is the rookie goal-scoring leader, a rookie record holder for the Winnipeg Jets, and not Teemu Selanne? That is just so confusing. Also, the NHL needs to stop this. The users of Puck Doku also confused. I don't know why they don't adjust the record book. So I knew it was Thrashers with the Jets. So 50 assists in a single season with the Jets. I picked Mark Savard, 2%. I was pretty pumped.
Yeah, but you know what? For a guy that complains so much about Thrashers records, why you picked Mark Savard over a Jet 2.0? Or, for instance, Danny Heatley over, for instance, someone like Matthew Perreault.
Well,
that's
to be fair, I did
You
it.
need to pick a side.
To be fair, I did it before, and I used maybe more popular picks. Like it's Carolina Sharks. Like obviously, like Brent Burns is popular. It's like 70% pick Brent Burns, or Carolina Anaheim. I think 45% had Freddie Anderson. But I did it again. I was like, okay, let's try to pick, lesser than not popular. And so I was like, well, no one's gonna have Mark Savard as 50 assists with the Jets. So I'm trying to get the lowest rarity score, Huss. I'm all about the low rarity. I'm not gonna go with the chalk pick like Henrik Sedin for 50 assists in a single season. That's easy, but no. There's a lot of, I guess, young kids playing this game, and nobody knows about Alex McGillney, and only 1% had him with the Canucks getting 50 assists in a season.
Yeah, and for people wondering about Whitney, well, Pronger for sure. obviously the Hartford Whalers are part of the Carolina Hurricanes, so that was how he got.
Yeah, I picked.
Nice work with Brendan Morrison.
Yeah,
1%.
I had my first one. I picked like Kessler. No, I picked Bieksa and Kessler. Those are the easy ones. And I was like, oh, Brendan Morrison. And I'm in a chat group with some friends, and the Sharks Canucks one I had trouble with. I could only think of Steve Bernier, and someone else had like Christian Ehrhoff, Igor Larionov. You could use as well. There's some other ones, but yeah, it's always the older players are low percentage.
Yeah, that was the. Anyways, this is neat. I'm really disappointed though you didn't put in Matthew Perreault, because I'd love to see which headshot they used for him.
Oh, I
We've
took a
always
screenshot.
done that fun thing about the different Perreault headshots over the years.
Yeah, I did use Perreault.
Was it long-haired Frenchie or was it?
It was short hair. It was with his headshot from the Habs. They had 29% had Perreault.
A recent one. Well, there you go, folks. You can try it. That one's not up anymore. We won't spoil the new one.
Yeah.
But again, during these times, you can always lean on Puck Doku for a little fun trivia session at the end of a program.
It was actually funny. I was in a group chat and someone said, "Oh, I wanted to use Oleg Tverdovsky and Chad Kilger for Jets Ducks, and I couldn't do it because it's not Jets 1.0." I'm like, "Hey, you could have still used them for Carolina Ducks. They both played for Carolina and the Ducks."
Good point as well. All right, fun show today. Again, I would like the option to use cash. I don't know. Maybe I'm a minority apparently. Although looking at the poll, Remis, 39% agreed with me and 30% were indifferent.
Yeah,
I'm going to take that as a win, despite
I think
it looked like I was getting ratioed in the chat.
Sounds to me like
we're just taking advantage to give it to me.
Sounds to me like 61% of people didn't agree with you.
Or 69% did.
I don't. I guess.
Like if you take the 30 out of 70, it was 39-21. As they say,
we're getting too many.
Will anyone take my money, please? Can I spend this anywhere?
I will say, someone's like, someone mentioned paper tickets. We are mad that they got away paper tickets. My souvenir binders of paper tickets obsolete. All I now have is my Apple Wallet with like 80 expired things that will go away eventually if I ever switch phones.
You know what? It's funny. Like I go down to Kansas City and my friends have season tickets and they still get a beautiful package at the start of every year with really nice hard tickets that make great souvenirs. If you want to send them to someone else, you can send them digitally. It's no problem. But I mean, listen, I get it. Teams are trying to save money, trying to cut costs or whatever. But I've always thought that the expenditure of the season ticket is such a big purchase that giving people just something that doesn't exist in reality, I don't know. I sold those things for so long. People really like getting the tickets. I guess it's different right now, and that ship has sailed. I will granted that. That being said, there has to be a place in society for cold hard cash.
No,
Apparently
money's dead.
Not at our arena or our stadium.
It's dead. You can't. You know how dirty
Money is dead.
You know how dirty
First
money
radio
is?
is dead. Now money is dead.
Yeah, television, dead. Linear television, dead. But you know one thing that's also dead is wearing your own team's jersey at the MLB All-Star Game. A lot of people mad online yesterday, Huss, about the jerseys yesterday.
They're terrible.
They were terrible. They're also like sublimated logos on. Like have a nice like sewn jersey. Like I used to like the American National jerseys like 1999. But those ones yesterday sucked. And I'll be honest, I was never a huge fan of wearing like your own jersey in the All-Star Game. I think there are pictures of like the 70s where the uniforms were more colorful than they are now, and it did look cool. But
yeah.
I didn't love that as a kid.
Yesterday of them.
I thought it was weird. I thought it was weird that they didn't wear because hockey always had great All-Star jerseys. I was like, well, why doesn't baseball? They just like wear their regular jerseys. That's dumb. But I guess it doesn't. You don't need to wear. Baseball's a sport, Huss, where you can wear whatever clothes you want and you know who's on what team.
T Kona Pauly in chat. Huss, cash is live in T Kona. Bring it down. It's funny you say that when we were there for your big festival, the High Neighbor Festival a few weeks ago, we were in one of the bars, and I'm pretty sure it was cash only. And Dairy Whip was always cash only too. I went there after the Marion on Saturday. They've now gotten with the times. You can use debit there, but I'm sure they prefer cash. What a world we live in. Finding someone to take a couple 20s is tough these days. We'll figure it out. We'll get there. And Brad Batters, does WST accept cash? Good question.
Like we don't have a physical store. Like, where are you going to give it to us? So
We're big on customer service, though. We'll make that work. We are making it work for Les, who doesn't have a phone for his digital ticket. So we're going to have a hard ticket. Gold Eyes are great about that, by the way. And we'll have a ticket waiting for you, Les, for the game on Wednesday.
There's people did reach out, and I think people put in the notes too, like accommodations for if you need accessible seating. We'll make all that happen. So that's actually kind of nice on our WinnipegSportsTalk.com store. That there is a note, so we have seen notes from people, and we'll do our best to accommodate everyone, and we're looking forward to that Gold Eyes night. A lot of tickets being sold so far, pretty awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's been a great response. And as they say, come one, come all. We're going to be down that left field line. We'll have a bunch of tickets. I have a feeling there'll be a large portion of us that kind of post up in Craft Beer Corner and spend time there. But anyways, it's going to be great. So if you're just finding out, go to winnipegsportstalk.com. 2 weeks today, ballpark game. We might even send out some special invites to some of our regulars and get them to join us as well. Huge thanks to Brady Oliveira for jumping on with us today. Scott Billeck, Ian Mendes. Tomorrow, Rowicki, Marat, and Marshall Ferguson. We'll talk some Bombers, Jets, and much, much more as baseball gets back at it, Wimbledon semis, and much more. Thanks to all of our sponsors for making this show happen each and every day. And thanks to all of you for making us a part of yours. Have a great one. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. live on YouTube on WST.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.